Alrighty, welcome back to another Goji cast. Today we're doing another Call of Warhammer Beginning of the End Times. I believe patch 1.5 still. This is a Warhammer conversion mod for Medieval 2 Total War. Kingdoms? Yeah, that's what the expansion is called. Kingdoms! And today we're doing a gloriously nasty showdown between myself as the Skaven and Indie Pride from Milk and Cookies Total War, playing Children of Nurgle. So it's a down and dirty, real dirty matchup. Slinging farts, throwing poison, shanking with dirty tetanus knives, all the good stuff you would want from a classic Total War bout. Let me go over the army comps and we can jump right into the battle. Spare no time. For my chaffy front and line, chaff on chaff on chaff, racks on racks on racks, we got 3 Skaven slaves. Behind them, 3 clan rats. Behind those guys, we actually have some meat and potatoes of the army. The storm vermin to hold down the flanks, and these plague center bears who are unbreakable in this mod to hold down the center. For weapon teams, we got warp fire throwers, poison wind mortars with some stakes deployed. It's kind of hard to see because this terrain is absolute dog shit. And the warp lock Jezzails in the back to throw down some sniper fire on the enemy's approach. Now, 2 Rat Ogres and 2 Doom Flayers will be in the back of my formation to kind of protect from cavalry. Skaven's biggest weakness, no cav, and Medieval 2, very cav-heavy game. Cav is king in a lot of respects to the game. Only things that really stop cav are other cav, stakes, and monstrous stuff, which is not in the base game, but in Warhammer... In Warhammer, we have monsters. There be monsters. And Rat Ogres, with their high mass and high HP, will be able to go toe-to-toe with those evil little cavalry. We have a Screaming Bell, which also gives us some AoE kind of leadership buff, and a Rattling Gun. They were hiding in the train as well, and we all know what those Rambo Rats do, so we don't really need to explain that. For Indie Pride's good old formation, we have 2 Marauders, which are the basic bitch infantry of any Chaos line, but he only has 2 on this flank. Backed up are the Chaos Warriors, and then some fart-throwing Sorcerers of Nurgle. Now, you'll see in this game, these guys are not the most powerful, but they are quite hilarious. They do throw farts and make this little squelching noise, but they do provide an AoE debuff of leadership, so they are quite potent in that respect. We have 2 teams of Chaos Knights and Chosen Knights of Nurgle. Perhaps he has his general in one of these. I never keep track of the generals. I'm so bad. I just don't care enough, because, like, I mean, the generals mean a lot in this game. They can do some leadership, shocks, but they're really nothing compared to the generals of Total War Warhammer 2 these days. Pox Magaths, or Pox Maggoths, are going to be his heavy-hitting force in this Nurgle army. Going to plow through my stuff and do some good AoE damage to just really smash my infantry blobs to bits. And then he has a Chosen of Nurgle along with another Chaos Warrior Nurgle, well, just regular Chaos Warriors, and 2 Plague Bearers, the one-eyed, gross, kind of more gangly looking of all the demons of chaos, but they are quite nasty. Along with these Nurglings, they're about a foot high in this mod, but they'll sure as hell bite your penis off, no problem. I think it takes a little minute for him to approach here, but essentially I'm just going to be waiting on this hill because I'm an absolute scumbag, and these poison wind mortars will eventually start firing, along with my long-range Jezzails and stuff, and you'll just hear the ridiculous sounding of this bell, like, what? It sounds like, when school is out when you're a little kid and, like, recess has started. That's what I think this fucking bell sounds like. And it's quite obnoxious, I'm not gonna lie. But you can't turn it off. So let's keep on fast-forwarding here. This may be an edit cut, we'll see. Depending on how slow these fucking Nurgle... Now, I'd imagine Nurgle is gonna be quite slow when Warhammer 3 comes out as well. But that is a side effect of playing Nurgle. They're tanky, they're sticky, they're gross, but they're also really slow because their joints are deteriorating and they have no more fucking cartilage and any of this shit. Or maybe they're all cartilage, just a blob of cartilage perhaps. Alright, and we're seeing some poison wind mortar fire going down. I believe that's going to be on some of the Chosen of Nurgle. No, we're focusing down the Plague Bears here and these Chaos Warriors. Yep, Plague Bears getting shot down a little bit, but no damage so far, as a complete whiffs. Then I believe the Warplock Jezzails are actually going to be firing at Marauders. You know, damage is damage, but not very worth it in my opinion. These Marauders are probably just bullet sponges anyway, so as soon as something more important gets in range, I should definitely be switching targets on these Warplock Jezzails. These Poison Mortars continue to bombard the Plague Bears, and you know, they might just be missing, but it'd be more friendly if they weren't affected either, because I wouldn't imagine poison would do so much to a numb to pain, numb to disease and all infections Plague Bearer demon from the Chaos Wastes. Now, some of the Warpfire throwers are going to be slathering these juicy little Chaos Warriors with their healing green fire, which is quite dope looking. Oh, that was a see what I did not mean to do here. Skaven Slayers immediately routing as they do. I have a leadership buff, but they don't really care about that. Some Cav coming in, charging in, but they're kind of behind their own line, so they get buffered. The Rat Ogres and the Doom Flayers are engaging the Chaos Knights, but the Chaos Knights are alone, so I would definitely retreat. Yep, that looks like what he's doing. Now, these rattling guns are known for just bursting down stuff in Total War Warhammer 2, and that's what they do as well in this mod, and they're just going to try to shoot the shit out of these Poxmagoths. Actually, take that back. Maybe I'm focusing the Plague Bearers, or the Cav. The Cav is really important. See, Cav can make it or break it in a classic Medieval 2 fight, and the same is relatively true for BOTET beginning of the end times. Now, the farts are being thrown by the Sorcerers of Nurgle onto the Warplock Jezzails. Check that, the Plague Sensor Bears. And you can see they're taking some casualties, but not a lot. And these guys cost quite a bit, so they should be doing a little bit more damage. And I'm able to go tweak the stats, and I might just go fix them later. You never know, I might do it. Chaos Warriors are trying to run up the flanks, but they're taking serious casualties doing it. These Doom Flayers are kind of waiting just to see if any more Cav gets through. Looks like Chosen Nurgle actually broke through the lines. It's hard to tell on this map, but if we zoom in a little bit here, we can see the Plague Sensor Bears holding strong because they're unbreakable. A lot of my chaff has gone down. I mean, some of them are still around. And the Warpfire Throwers, and along with the other weapon teams, are just holding down this middle section. If they weren't laying down the fire, they are. The Spear Slaves and other chaffy units would have been definitely decimated by now. But the more crucial engagements have been going on in the flanks, back and forth with these Chosen Knights and the Rat Ogres and the Doom Flayers, and we're just trying to poke and prod and see who can get the better engagement out of those units. And the Poxmagoths just causing all sorts of trouble. I really need to focus these fuckers down. They're not doing a lot of damage. You actually have to be careful with these guys because they're a bit jank, as is this entire mod. So you gotta slow them down, get them so they can do some AoEs. There we go. They're gonna start headbutting and just doing massive damage. I realized we were on double speed this entire time. It's kind of why things have been a little weird. But it's okay, because BOTET games last a little longer. I mean, Medieval 2 is just the nature of the beast. The combat's more, not realism, I would say, but it's very animation per model based, so it takes a long time for infantry to grind through each other. Chosen of Nurgle, speaking of, fighting through some Plague Sensor Bears, Warplock Jezzails. They're kind of surrounded, but they're definitely higher tier infantry. Ooh! And these Storm Vermin might have gotten charged by these Chosen Knights, but the Chaos Knights get their charge blunted by their own troops trying to go into the Warplock Jezzails. Tragic. So we actually have sort of a strong side. These Clan Rats are surviving here. I mean, they're just fighting shitty little Nurglings, and you know, these rats, like, they're just as short as the Nurglings, so there's no dick biting to be had on that occasion. And the Nurglings just kind of an extra HP in this mod. They're just sponges, just little tiny SpongeBob SquarePants just running around, you know, if he was infected and like bloated. I think there actually was an episode where he got all gross and nasty and started like leaking pus and stuff out of his little porous body. And just that's what a Nurgling is, essentially, you know. Poxmagoth's still causing a bunch of trouble. Chosen Knights have yet to get a good charge. Oh, they single out the one rattling gun and take him down. Damn. That's actually really important for taking out the rest of the Cav and the Poxmagoths as well. So this is not looking great for me, but I also still have some pockets of resistance here. So my infantry is looking alright. We're trading fairly evenly here, especially with the Rat Ogres intermingled. We have some Doom Flayers somewhere. But the issue is that his Cav is healthy and my Rat Ogres are healthy. So basically, at the end of the day, it has to come down. There can be only be one, and his power units are going to get whittled down, or mine are. And ooh, they get caught out by some storm vermin. The Chosen Knights of Nurgle, they are tanky, but halberds surrounding you will only that nasty extra layer of filth and grime will only protect you for so long, as these rat ogres start running, chasing after them fervently. These pox maggots are just doing their thing. Again, you kind of want to leave them in combat so they can get their AoEs off, but they are causing quite the disruption in the backfield and have this entire game, so very well played to Indy here. And as well, let's see, there's the good old Doom Flayers. They're going to chase down by these Chaos Knights, and I'm running the hell away. I think the Doom Flayers actually would perform fairly well against these guys, but on the chart they might lose quite a bit. And that's kind of the counterplay, right, is you just take good engagements with these types of armies and the mod in general. A lot of your forces will win given the right circumstances if you bring the right army. You just need to choose wisely. And so I'm choosing not to charge this full throttle Chaos Knights with these Doom Flayers. And then the farts are being thrown. Again, like you can see, these guys actually haven't made that huge of an impact because they're targeting sensor bears and all this other stuff. Ooh, and a rear charge. Oh, boy. Oh, and these guys go down from 9 to... 9? I guess I didn't take damage. Another thing, I think the Doom Flayers might be overtuned as well. Me and Indy were talking about it during the game. Like, they were chopping up cavalry pretty nice. And I don't think it was even their damage, it's their tankiness, perhaps. They're just a little too tanky for what they are. Rat Ogres, affected by the farts, but not too much. They still hold strong. The bell doing its thing. Hey, we're not hearing the bell anymore. Congratulations, us. No more recess lunch breaks for us. Nurgling still going strong. I guess 18, 27, not crazy. But these Plague Bears are very strong as well. But again, the Doom Flayers, these continue to be unchecked. Perhaps the Pox Maggots need to go attack them or something. But these Plague Bears will feel the pain of that charge, going down from just 11 troops lost on that charge alone. Fairly good. The Warplock Jazales are still available to just be raining down fire upon his cav and other stuff, along with the Storm Vermin. The Storm Vermin are fairly healthy. It's actually looking pretty good. And our good old ratty boys, the Rat Ogres, are standing strong as well. Now, the Rat Ogres do have a little more leadership than I think they should as well. I mean, they don't rout for some reason. And I think that's just because of Medieval 2. If your unit's senses that it's strong and can fight, it'll just keep fighting. And there's no real balance of power or a lot of factors determining its morale, or as many factors as in Warhammer 2. So, like, as long as it can, like, it's not super tired and it can sense that it still has a lot of fighting potential, then it'll just keep going, you know. And because they have so much HP and, like, just attacking power, I think their melee attack is way beyond, like, any normal unit of infantry or cavalry. They'll just keep going until they really get broken. But I think I can lower the morale, so I think that can be adjusted as well. But in the late game here, you can see there's just pockets of resistance of the Nurgle. Force here, the Pox Maggots are down to 1. I think that's just from attrition from getting shot at and in the melee. But it's hard to sense what HP value they're at. I believe these guys have 10 each. And there's sometimes a little bloody animation. But other than that, he's knocking his own little sad Nurglings around. Other than that, it's hard to tell if he's damaged heavily or not. So unfortunately, we have no clue where he's at. But he's going to be charging into these Warplock Jazales as I stupidly just let these Storm Vermin just sit there and watch as their, like, super important unit just gets chowed on by this giant Nurgle monster. The Plague Bears are fighting with the Rat Ogres and the Doom Flayers, but the Doom Flayers, along with the Rat Ogres, should be able to dice these guys up. Just the nature of the monstrous infantry and the cav versus even elite tier infantry, well, semi-elite tier infantry like Plague Bears, you know. And then the Plague Sensor Bears, the unbreakable Plague Rats of Skrulk's faction, Pestilens, is coming in to finish up those Plague Bears, and Pox Maggoth is doing his best to try to get these Warplock Jazales, but at this point I think the battle is over. Unless this Pox Maggoth can just solo this entire army. And honestly, if he was at full HP, he would deal a good amount of damage. The issue is just the rat ogres. I mean, the rat ogres would surround, and they have a good amount of melee attack. They just get too many hits on this guy, and unfortunately murder him fairly swiftly. These little Nurglings are doing their last hurrah, the little jig as they get sent wailing back into the Chaos Realm. But these Warplock Jezzails are going to be running away, finally, because Goji has micro, baby. And also, this map was just... The terrain for these two factions is awful. Like, it's light green grass for, like, light green and brown rats, and then completely green Nurgle. And there goes the last maggot. It is finished. GG to the Indie Pride. I think he actually did post this earlier, and he probably did a much better job of encapsulating what happened, but it was quite the funny battle. Again, I don't think it was entirely dependent on the units being busted, but I'll tell you this much about the 3 units that I'm concerned about. The Nurgle Plague Sorcerers that throw the nasty little queefs at people just don't do a lot of damage. And for a unit that costs as much as they do, should do a little more. So that could contribute to the result, along with the tankiness of those Doom Flares. They did sustain a lot of damage and not go down for quite a while. I might have put an extra HP on there on accident or some other mishap. And then the Rat Ogres do kind of have high morale. But other than that, I think it was a very interesting game. And it came down right to the wire, right? So, I mean, even if, like, those Rat Ogres having a little less morale could have been a big deal. So, it was up in the air, in my opinion. It's still a very close game. And there's still some decisions, like sending in the Cav, like, a little prematurely and stuff, that I think contributed to the loss as well of the good old Indie. Rat Ogres performed really well. Again, it's sad, Medieval 2, you can't, gauge the damage, but you can look at the kills, even if they're, like, useless kills. And we got a lot of them because of the nature of Nurglings and Nurgle liking to swarm people. We like to swarm as well, so it's probably a high casualty match. But yeah. The Rattling Guns, I can say, probably didn't pay for themselves. I mean, they tried to get a good amount of damage on those Magaths at one point, and they did, I think, pepper some Cav. So if this was 23 Cav, worth it, sort of. But if it's not, then it. But I think everything performed pretty well. I mean, the Clan Rats did amazingly well. They just murdered those freaking poor little Nurglings. But they took an extremely long time to do it. Thus, the Nurglings have served their purpose, right? Rat Ogres just did stupendously. I mean, they just did great. They're a monstrous infantry. If they don't have morale issues, they're kind of busted in this game. So that's why their morale might need to get tuned. But yeah, they were performing amazingly. Along with the Jezzails. I don't even know if the Jezzails got that many kills, but they just... Excellent pressure. And good at, like, also breaking units if they're getting shot and surrounded by stuff. That'll drop leadership really quick in this game. Anyways, thanks for tuning in for another BOTET battle with Goji. Hope to catch you next time, and see you later. Peace out.